Hi, I'm Liron Cohen.
And I'm Mimi Torchin.
And you're listening to Lady Parts TV, the podcast.
Whee!
Hello, everybody.
Hi there, and a happy, crazy new year.
Yes, I think it's, as somebody mentioned yesterday, it's like the 38th of December 2020, and I'm not sure what's going on, but this is our 90th podcast.
Wow.
We are fast approaching the 100th podcast, and I think we'll have to have a celebration at that point.
So we'll have to start thinking.
Yeah, we have to start thinking. If you have any ideas, let us know. ladypartstv@gmail.com. And before we get started, we do want to, well, let me tell you our stats, and then we'll tell you why the stats look like they do. We tallied 6 primetime shows, of which directed or co-directed by women 3, 50%. Written and directed 2, which is 33%. And we have a small selection of things to talk about, but their quality.
Oh yes, their quality.
But the reason that we have such a small selection of movies and shows to report is because, much like many of you, we believe, we were glued to the television.
Yes, I watched, starting with the Ossoff-Warnock races. Yeah. We have been glued to MSNBC, and yes, now you know what our politics are.
Oh yes, I know, because we try to be very vague about it.
Exactly.
And
for days and days, and also Wednesday. There was nothing else on television, fortunately. I mean,
well, except for Fox, they still kept Name That Tune and The Masked Singer.
Dancer. The Masked Dancer. Yes, but everybody else covered the tragedy and the horror of the attack on the Capitol.
And we don't want to get too much into it because we still consider our job in part to
divert.
Well, to bring some joy into your life, especially at times like this. But you all know, and if you follow us on social media, you especially know that this is more important to us than anything else, even movies and television. But we know that you get a lot of that all throughout the day from many various sources, and we are here to give you a little bit of distraction and something else to revitalize your soul in times like this. But this is horrifying, and we all saw it coming, and not just because there were, dark web messages and things like that, but because
we don't go on the dark web.
Because the last 4 years have all led to this. Yes, we just know from
watching Trump.
We all knew that this was going to happen, and we can only hope that our democracy is strong enough to get past this. And as Stacey Abrams reminds us, a Jewish man and the first black man from Georgia have won. We regained the Senate.
To the Senate.
We regained the Senate. We held the House. We have a new president. We have a
fabulous vice president.
So
I dreamt about last night.
Lucky you. So we have a lot of wonderful things that also happened. And as always, when wonderful things happen, there will be the evil that will try to pull back and not let things go.
Well, yes,
progress.
It wasn't just because of the wonderful things. The wonderful things happened because, I think, of these horrible people.
Yes. But what I mean is there's always
something.
That when oftentimes when progress is made, the evil forces try to take it back.
Enjoy our poor Ossoff. The day he was announced was when he had won was when everything broke, all hell broke loose.
Yeah,
and I just want to see punishment meted out.
Yes,
I
to
want
everybody,
to see
high and low,
justice.
Yes,
from the highest to literally
the very
lowest.
Yes, and even the highest, we're just talking rank, not anything else, because they're the lowest of the low.
The highest.
Every one of those Republicans who disseminated lies should be tried for sedition.
Absolutely.
Personally, I think so.
But anyway, this is not what we're here for.
So we're going to start. We're going to start. We have really great stuff to talk to you about today, and we're going to start with a new movie that Mimi will tell you about.
Yes, it's called If Not Now, When. It's in theaters and on demand and digital right now. it's the directorial feature debut of co-directors Megan Good, the actress, and Tamara Bass, and it's written by Tamara Bass. So it's all
women,
it's all
all the
about
way.
women, written and directed by women.
Right.
It's starring Megan Holder, Makia Cox, Tamara Bass, Lexi Underwood, Niles Fitch, and Megan Good. Niles Fitch is the
one of the boys,
one of the young
Randall.
Yeah, one of the young Randalls, my favorite actually
Yes.
of them. And
Well,
I love
the boys,
them all. The little
they're
one is
fantastic.
precious. Yes,
They're
yes, yes.
fantastic. And Lexi Underwood, you'll remember from
Little Fires Everywhere. Makia
Who
Cox
won the Lady Parts TV Young Actress Award last year? Yes.
Lexi Underwood,
Yeah.
yes. And it's a girlfriend movie. They're African Americans.
It's a genre movie. That's very much made me think about Waiting to Exhale. There was another movie recently on
like
Netflix.
Waiting to Exhale. Mm-hmm.
That was more, I think, maybe like more of a comedy. This is more of a drama.
Drama, yes. Four friends who met in high school. They're bonded by something particular that happened to one of them in high school, and
Some of them have kind of lost touch.
One of them has lost touch with the others,
and then one of them overdoses,
right.
and that brings them together.
Everybody together. They're all very successful, middle class. This thing that when their friend overdoses, it's a very, very shocking event for them.
I think that's kind of, though, the point is that they all are dealing with a lot that they haven't been telling their friends.
Right, yes, they all have things
they've been trying to
lives.
keep kind of the
Right.
appearances that things are okay, and this kind of makes them confront it and tell their friends and share with their
Right.
friends, and have the power of friendship help lift them from those places. And in fact, I was going to say that the thing that usually bothers me about these movies, and this was no different, is that as much as it's about the girlfriends, it's about their problems with their boyfriends or their husbands. But
some of whom are great, some of whom are not.
Yeah. However, I guess for straight women, that's something that it interests them. But it is about coming out of those relationships with men that are frustrating and, damaging oftentimes, and finding
solace
and finding
and
the actual,
exactly. And that was the best part of it. And all the actors were wonderful.
Yes.
These are
many of them are top-notch actresses.
I liked it. I enjoyed watching the actors, but the movie is way, way too long.
Yeah, it should have been an hour and a half.
I mean, there are so many movies that are way, way too long. This movie was well over 2 hours.
And it meandered because it didn't really have a plot per se. It was kind of more about just them and their lives and coming back together.
And reminding somewhat of their youth and the lives of their children to some degree.
Right, but it didn't have the urgency and the trajectory that a movie of 2 hours needed. This should have been an hour and a half.
There was nothing really original about it.
But it was kind of pleasant.
Yes, it was. Yes, and again, the actors are very good, and I like them very much. But there was also a lot of repetition.
Yeah,
that was another thing, is that it didn't need to be long, and yet they kept repeating the same things over and over and over again. That made it too long.
Okay, so we're not going to make the same mistake, and we're going to cut this short.
Okay.
Anyway,
universal themes, good cast, likable characters.
Yeah,
and,
if
not now, when.
It is available on demand.
Yes, and if you
like the genre, and if you like the actresses.
Yes. I would tell you to watch it. I enjoyed it.
Okay. Now, though, we have two movies that we are wholeheartedly recommending, and we're starting with...
Pieces of a Woman. This is one of the best films I've seen in a long time. It's also one of the most difficult, heartbreaking, bleak.
However...
but it does, it does end up lifting you up.
Well, and not even just that. I was going to say... I came to this movie, I wanted to see it because I knew it was going to be good, but I was very trepidatious because of the pain that I knew just by the topic. And it was so good that it was worth going through the pain.
And we went through the pain.
We went through the pain, yeah. And when we tell you what it's about, you'll understand immediately.
A couple decides to have a home birth with their first child.
You already know where we're going with this, don't you?
Yeah, right? Something goes terribly wrong. Yeah. And it covers about a year. Would you
Yeah,
say?
it basically shows us what that does to them, what that does to them, to their relationship,
so often
their
happens.
relationships with their
families,
and to the midwife who they.
She doesn't.
But
well, here, let me tell you the cast: Vanessa Kirby, who should win an Oscar.
Right. So let's start with Vanessa Kirby,
who should win an Oscar
because many of you know her from The Crown. She played Margaret, Princess Margaret, in the first 2 seasons, and
we saw her play Stella in
to Gillian Anderson's Streetcar.
Blanche in It was just mind-boggling.
Mind-blowing.
I am a massive fan of hers. I just adore her.
And now this was a true vehicle for her to show what she's capable of, and she showed it.
She's done a lot of great roles on the British stage, apparently, but mostly supporting roles in films. And this is going to shoot her in the stratosphere of stardom. She just was unbelievably magnificent and heartrending.
Now, Ellen Burstyn plays her mother. And Ellen Burstyn, whom we met at Whole Foods, by the way.
Well, we didn't meet her. We stalked her at Whole Foods.
She was very nice, though.
Yes, she was. I think we even told her that
we
thought she was
We don't usually, because, in New York, like
in L.A.,
you see them and you got to let them live their lives. But we couldn't help ourselves, and we just went and told her that we were big fans of her work, and she was very gracious, and that was nice. And then
the first time she saw us, and then she sort of...
Well, then we just ran into her. It wasn't that we
running into because Whole Foods is really a small warehouse.
Yes. Anyway, she is fantastic, and she doesn't get to do as much. But then there's a monologue that was all shot in one take. And by the way, the first
29 minutes, which opens
the birth,
which is the birth,
are also one take, which is phenomenal.
Which they shot 6 times apparently.
Phenomenal.
I don't know how they lived through it.
Yes, and then Ellen Burstyn's monologue, which was also one take and was just
again
mind-blowing,
shockingly painful and magnificent.
Molly Parker plays a role here unlike anything I've ever seen her do before, and I loved her.
She was wonderful. She was the midwife, and she was a very sympathetic character who was put through...
well, you'll see.
Yeah, you'll see.
A couple of relatives played by Eliza Schlesinger, who, by the way, if you haven't seen her stand-up
comic,
you must.
She is brilliant.
Yes.
She's a very smart
Not
woman.
playing funny here at all.
No. And
Sarah Snook. And here's the clincher.
Shia LaBeouf. Who plays her partner.
Right.
They're not married. Now, we know that there's a lot of baggage that comes with
And honestly,
Shia
I would
LaBeouf.
have much rather if they'd cast somebody else in the role. But
2 things. One is he was wonderful.
Well, yes, but I still would have... there are many other actors who could have been wonderful.
Yes. But he was very good for the type of the character. But the second thing is don't let your...
don't let him ruin the movie for you.
Don't let your dislike of him, your lack of respect, don't let his criminal
activities... completely justified.
Yes, he was...
don't let him ruin the movie
don't
because...
let him keep you from this movie.
The movie shouldn't suffer because the movie is excellent.
And I don't think it will ruin the movie for you at all because he plays a character...
that you won't like anyway.
That you won't like anyway, right, exactly.
The movie was directed by Cornel Menducto and written by Kata Weber, who...
are partners in real life, and this is their story.
Yeah, and you can tell immediately.
She said several times when we watched it, this is very, very personal. This is very specific. This
must be based on somebody's experience.
On somebody's experience. And sure enough, when I went to read articles about it, which I often do after I watch something that moves me and deeply, and that, yes, this was their story. I believe they're Hungarian.
Yes.
He's done some acclaimed foreign films. This is his first film in English, and he has great...
It's not going to be the last.
It's not going to be the last. Please,
it's fantastic.
Gird your loins. Yeah. Know that it is worth it to feel this pain, and you will feel the pain of these people.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen a scene like the birth scene.
It was masterfully done.
Masterfully done.
Really, all aspects of it.
Everything, down to the music, the lighting.
The music,
the cinematography is excellent.
Yeah.
It's just a masterwork. I really do think it's a masterpiece of
Masterpieces of a Woman.
Masterpieces of a Woman.
Pieces
yes.
of a Woman is available on Netflix now. You can go watch it right after hearing us.
Yes.
Before we are done talking about Pieces of a Woman, I just want to mention Vanessa Kirby is in a new film, a lesbian movie.
Right.
That is coming out next month.
The World to Come.
The World to Come, and we will be reviewing it in a special episode of Lesbian Movie Club ahead of its release. But yeah, Vanessa Kirby is becoming more and more interesting to watch.
She has always been interesting to watch.
I'm just saying more and more. Well, and here's another movie you could choose to watch right after. It depends on your mood. This is called I'm Your Woman, and it is available on Amazon Prime.
For unaccountable reasons.
Yeah, I know. We kind of don't understand the title, really. It's on Amazon Prime now. It's written and directed by Julia Hart and co-written by Jordan Horowitz. Starring the wonderful Mrs. Maisel, the marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Not being Mrs. Maisel
Not at all. Rachel Brosnahan. Marsha Stephanie Blake, who is phenomenal.
Loved her.
Arinze Keeney, who was absolutely lovely. Frankie Faison, and lovely children and some babies. And this takes place in the 70s, and Rachel Brosnahan is married to somebody who she thinks is kind of a thief, and it turns out to be much more than a thief. And he gets in trouble with his very vicious bosses, and she and her baby have to go on the lam,
like in
escape.
the middle of the night.
Right. And they get some help from some really, really interesting people. Among them is the character of Marsha Stephanie Blake. And it's...
And Cal.
And Cal, who plays her husband.
No. Cal
plays Marsha Stephanie
right.
Blake's husband. This is, to me, I know that Mimi doesn't share my comparison so much, but to me, when I watched it, all I could think about was The Kitchen. I don't know if you've seen it. We haven't reviewed it because it really didn't merit a review. We came to it because of the cast. It has had Elizabeth Moss and Melissa McCarthy and Tiffany Haddish.
This wasn't the one with Viola?
Viola was in another movie of that sort. And in The Kitchen, there are three women who also are married to criminals who they know actually what kind of criminals they are. And when they get in trouble and they're left behind to take care of their families, they basically turn into their husband. They become ruthless and violent, and I hated the movie basically. And in this movie, this woman who, very interestingly, we don't know anything about
her.
All the way to the end. We don't know where she comes from, what her story is, what her family is like. But you understand
a little bit about her story. We understand her story about not being
tiny bit
conception and all of that.
Yeah, but tiny bit. But we don't really. But you know. You get the impression of the character that she was so dependent on her husband, and then nobody ever taught her anything. She obviously she wasn't raised by anybody who taught her how to cook and how, she was kind of like plucked out of nowhere. She was on her own for the first time. She was completely at the mercy of. And this is a story of her growing as a person, becoming independent.
From this adversity.
And empowered by this other very strong woman, who then she becomes strong enough to help her. So it's about the sisterhood between them. It's about...
I loved their relationship.
Yep.
And
they had to defend their families, their kids, their husbands. And they do that.
Yes.
She grows into the kind of person, and it's not, an action. She doesn't turn into, turn into Wonder Woman.
No, she just she learns the things she has to do to survive with the help of Frankie Faison, who is,
of some good people along the way, but
yes.
But especially of that woman, and it was fantastic.
It was.
And I had to practically force Mimi to watch this, because when we
watched the first, it just made me so anxious. I was so anxious. She has a baby that her husband brings home one day and she says, "Who's that?" She says,
"That's our baby.
That's our baby. That's our son."
But it is true that when there's a baby involved, to me, it's more dramatic when there's a dog involved or some animal, because a baby, they won't kill that quickly, but an animal they will sacrifice for the story.
And depending how vicious the movie is, they will also kill a child. So that adds a whole other level of fear.
Yeah, but I knew that the story would be about her and the child escaping and what they have to do that. But it turned out to be a very different film from what we thought it would be, and it was fantastic. fantastic. Everything about it. Again, the music, which was also composed by a woman.
Great music, as well as found music of the period.
That's right.
The 70s.
It was just excellent. The women, the sisterhood, the message. I loved it. I loved it. It's called I'm Your Woman. It is on Amazon Prime now. I suspect that it will be
and directed by a woman.
Yep, co-written. I suspect that it will be up there for nominations. And Rachel Brosnahan is just so wonderful.
So wonderful to see her do something else, which I had never really, as I recall,
not
seen
much.
her
I think
do.
she kind of showed up on the scene pretty much with Mrs. Maisel for us. So this was great. Really enjoyed it.
We recommend it highly.
Now, I know this is kind of out of left field.
Flung out of space.
Flung out of space, exactly. But we recently revisited Carol. Now, that's not to say that we don't think about Carol often and fondly.
And even talk about, should we watch Carol? No, we'll wait for
See, the thing is that when Carol came out, we watched it we went to see it 4 times in screenings and in the theater. And then when we got the screener, we watched it several times at home. And then I think again when the season happens.
No, I don't think we watched it more than 4 or 5 times.
I think we did.
No, I don't.
Anyway, though, it's been a while.
It's been more than a year, if not 2.
Yes, it's been a while. And even though, we could basically
recite the movie
exactly, we felt, you know what? I'm up for it. Yeah, let's do it again. And boy, what did we start? We watched it, and then for the next 2 nights, I think, we watched only behind-the-scenes featurettes, interviews,
we fell
Q&As.
into the Carol rabbit hole, believe me.
We just could not get enough of the movie. And the thing is it's not just that it's the best lesbian movie ever, and I'm sorry, it should have won the last lesbian standing. And at least it lost only by 1 vote. And that's because I couldn't vote.
And I do love the,
Imagine Me and You, but you can't compare.
This is a gem. This is a work of fine art.
And the thing is, it's not even the best movie lesbian. It's one of the best movies ever made, period.
It almost, and it did for a short period of time, become my favorite movie over The English Patient.
Well, to me, it tied for first place with The Prince of Tides. And it still does.
Yes, but it is an exquisite film in every possible way, and I hadn't forgotten that. I remember.
No, you just. I think if we watched it today,
I was amazed and overwhelmed.
I think if we watched it today, we would feel the same way. We would be overwhelmed again.
Yeah, but I think having come back to it,
having had the break, for sure.
Really, it was like it wasn't like watching it for the first time again, because again we could quote lines, but I had forgotten some very important things.
But you were pretty quickly reminded.
Yeah, it's just that I had forgotten somehow the depth of its brilliance, the height of its brilliance.
Here's what I wish we had done. I wish we had a little webcam follow us around for the 2 days after following.
We
could not stop. Well, we couldn't stop talking about it. I dreamt about it too. Yeah. But we saw so many of the layers, and we discussed so many of the layers, and so much of it because. For instance, the silences between them. Everything that wasn't said.
Spoke volumes.
Everything that wasn't said.
And Phyllis Naja's script left lots of room for those silences.
But it
filled it
with a potency.
With what she knew the actors would bring to it.
Well, and then what Todd brought to it, what the music brought to it, with the choices of cinematography and what the composition,
cinematography, that lighting, that score by Carter Burwell. Oh my,
Burwell,
yeah. That score, which we bought immediately. I remember upon seeing the film the first time.
We have it. So many, and I can't stress this highly enough, and I don't even remember if we discussed it originally when we talked about it. The fact that they allowed a lesbian not only get her beloved in the end, but also that they allowed her to choose herself over her child, which is unheard of today, let alone in the 50s.
And you don't hate her for it.
You can't. First of all, you can't hate her for it, but. Yes, she had to, because she realized
she tried. She tried to, deny herself.
And Kate Blanchett said something that I actually did think about as well, that she thinks that if it hadn't been this way, if she hadn't done what she had done, she would have probably killed herself at some point. And she represents so many people who try to live a life that's not true to who they are.
Especially in that period, my God.
And end up, and she knew that that's not the way to be a mother, because she wouldn't be a good mother to her daughter if she tried to deny exactly who she is. We were also very saddened to hear that there were some Sarah Paulson scenes that were cut.
Yes,
because those scenes actually illuminated more about her relationship with Carol and her jealousy of her relationship with Therese.
They tamped that down a little bit. You could see it. You knew it was happening, but it wasn't explicit as it wasn't original.
What it intended to be. Yeah. And, all sorts of things that we learned. I loved hearing about the choice of costumes, and,
the costumes
were
so,
phenomenal. They were draped over Kate Blanchett. Sandy Powell.
Sandy Powell,
Absolutely.
One of the greatest costume designers of our time. And her, she could have worn that wardrobe out on the street today, even though it was the early 50s.
And the choice of making, because I never thought about it. I had read the book, and I never thought about the fact that the book, since it's told out of, Therese's point of view, then you have to find the balance in the movie to not only shift the point of view also to Carol, but also make the rest of the characters fully rounded humans, not just the kind of people that Therese saw through her, her perspective.
And the men were good, and they were in their way sympathetic, but there was no male gaze.
No, there was no male gaze.
This was all
our gaze.
Our
gaze. And we gazed. It was just everything about the movie. Everything. One of my favorite things in the movie is when she helps her take her coat off in the middle of driving.
It's so
it's such
intimate.
An intimate.
It's shot through the windows, through the outside. So many scenes I hadn't remembered were shot through windows,
through dirty windows,
kind
of making you constantly feel like you want more, you want more, you want more,
and separating you from what was going on inside.
Well, and putting
but you could see that it added also so much mood.
Mm-hmm. Well, it added to, and Todd Haynes, the director, kept going back to this lookbook that he put together of
that I wish they'd put out for us, because I hear it studying, and it's got photography of the great photographers of that time,
and how he wanted it to look, and he achieved it. They said that when you look at the book and you look at the movie, it looks exactly the same. And so a lot of it needed to be somewhat grainy, muted.
The fall palette was so beautiful,
and it makes Kate Blanchett look so oh my
gorgeous.
God. But the thing about the windows and the dirt and stuff is because you usually it puts you in the point of view of the person that you're identifying with at that moment. So for the beginning of the movie, a lot of it is Therese, because she's seeing Carol as this, oh my God, this
goddess. That's
that is she reachable? Is she not reachable? Is she gonna love me back?
Does she like me?
Yeah, and then at the end, it's on the flip side where it's Carol looking at Therese. Will she still want me? Will she take me back? And now that she's moved on, and she
grows so much in that year, Therese. It's so, and you sort of trace it a little bit. And then she becomes this Audrey Hepburn-esque woman at the end, which was...
And utilizing the photography mechanism, because in the book she is a set designer.
And I loved, the photographs that whoever took the photographs for her were just gorgeous, especially the ones of Kate.
Well,
oh my God, seen through the eyes of love.
To show you again, as another tool to show you what's unspoken, how she feels, and I think one of the great things about this, because we gratefully live in an age when a lot of movies now can be done just about love without all the unforbidden part of the love, but it's always very tantalizing when it is forbidden, and it just allows for so much subtext and so much to mine.
And Patricia Highsmith wrote this book under a pseudonym
1951.
Is that when she wrote it?
Well, it was published, I think, in 51. It was written in 49,
earlier,
50,
yeah. And to give a happy ending to...
it was unheard of.
Unheard of, yeah.
And
that's why
we
she
know,
did it under a pseudonym.
Well, and we know that it was...
To some degree, it was...
the beginning of it, anyway,
yes.
that she saw this. She worked also in a department store or toy store or something. She saw this woman.
Sophisticated, beautiful woman.
And she actually followed her home. And she became obsessed with her.
She was kind of a stalker.
So I think, I don't know what ended up with them, but this could be, in her imagination, what could have happened or what she would like to have happened.
Perhaps. I mean, anyway, it certainly gave her a jumping off point for a wonderful book and what ended up being one of the best screenplays.
And now to any of you who is thinking the ending is vague, I don't think it's vague at all.
No.
And
there's nothing vague about that ending.
And from all of the Q&As and the interviews and stuff, I think that they all agree that in the end the girl gets the girl.
Exactly.
She comes in. She sees her. She starts smiling and cut to.
And that's it.
Yeah, and you know that they're gonna be together, live together on Fifth Avenue and
Madison Avenue.
Madison Avenue, sorry.
That eventually, perhaps
they'll graduate. Yes.
It's just breathtaking.
It is.
Oh
my
God!
And we had
it's rapturous. This is if you ask me what describe this film in one word, it would be rapturous.
Yeah.
That's the word I'd use.
It's true. It just swallows you whole, and you don't want to.
In a good way.
Yeah, you don't want to come out again. You just want to stay there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Carol.
Well, I mean, we didn't even put a spoiler alert on this because we assumed that after 5 years we've seen it.
Yes, and if you haven't, you can still see it. It's all right.
Yes,
you must see it.
You must see it,
and it doesn't matter what you know.
Right, and I want to say, Cate Blanchett is just a goddess, but Rooney Mara,
she really matches her,
and you can tell that they loved each other on site, and their
chemistry is sublime,
and her expressiveness, and that she goes through such a huge trajectory with very little actually expressed in words. Everything just is kind of written on her face. And she did a phenomenal job.
Yes, phenomenal. And of course, Sarah Paulson is always wonderful. In a way too small role.
I know.
Kyle Chandler and
lots of Jake Lacey.
Jake Lacey was darling.
Yes, it was.
I love when you watch the Q&As that he was involved in. He was just he just felt like he was in the company of the
third wheel.
Yeah, that he was just, what am I doing here? How did I get in this film? He was very darling.
Yeah. Anyway, we just had to, because we obsessed over this movie for the greater part.
And we're still obsessing, clearly.
Clearly. We just had to revisit it. We thought, you know what, I know that we've talked about it before. I know that you've all seen it. I think it's time to tell you to watch it again.
Watch it again.
And then just go on YouTube.
Is it on Netflix?
It is on Netflix, and unfortunately the DVD doesn't have any bonus features.
No, or we'd say run right out, because there's obviously a lot of outtakes, a lot of removed scenes.
And a lot of it is on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I'm still hoping not the deleted scenes. No, and I would like to see, a longer version of the love scene.
Yeah, I would have liked to have had a commentary.
Oh, commentary, absolutely.
By Todd, that's all.
And I would like for them to have a whole featurette on that lookbook.
That lookbook, really and truly. Obviously, they couldn't do anything with it because it contained rights to photographs they couldn't get. But
I'm still hoping that they're going to use all that material for some sort of anniversary special edition DVD bonus something or other, and we're going to all get it.
They really have to.
It's such a waste.
And I'd like it to be an early anniversary, so I'm still alive
5th
to see it.
Now. No, 5th is already done. Maybe 10th. Anyway, thank you for joining us. We rambled, but hopefully you enjoyed our rambling.
Yes.
And we will talk to you next week. And be safe. Let's get to January 20th. Bye.
Bye.